I'm going to do a reading from The Sum of Us by Heather McGhee. And I'm going to talk about some of the benefits that the Alabaster Ministers would have rather gone without than to let Black people have an education. Okay, I have the words up so you can read along with me if you want to. Otherwise, I'm going to read from chapter 3 called Going Without. For generations, college-going white Americans could count on public money from their governments, whether federal or state, to pay most, if not all, of their cost of higher education. The novel idea of flourishing public colleges, at least one in every state, took shape in the 1860s, when the U.S. government offered the states over 10 million acres of land taken from indigenous people to build on or to sell for institutions of higher education for their citizens. So they took these lands from the indigenous people for the education of their people. More free federal money for higher education came with the GI Bill, which paid tuition plus living expenses for World War II veterans and swelled college coffers. In 1947, veterans made up 50% of U.S. college admissions. Racist program administration and educational segregation left Black veterans in the South largely excluded from these opportunities, however, despite the fact that they served this country as well. Public commitment to college for all was a critical part of the white social contract for much of the 20th century. In 1976, state governments provided $6 out of every $10 for the cost of students attending public colleges. The remainder translated into modest tuition bills of just $617 at a 4-year college in 1976. And a student could receive a federal Pell Grant for as much as $1,400 against that in living expenses. So as boomers talk right now about, these people just need to pull themselves up from with their bootstraps and talk about not wanting some of our loan money forgiven, remember that they basically paid nothing. They basically paid nothing for colleges because tax money went to helping them out, but they don't want us to have any help like they did. I'm going to continue. Hold on. Many of the country's biggest and most respected public colleges were tuition free, from the City University of New York to University of California system. This massive public investment wasn't considered charity, and individual states saw a return of $3 to $4 back for every dollar it invested in public colleges. There'll be a part 2. Okay, I'm continuing my reading from The Sum of Us, talking about public education. So, the massive public investment wasn't considered charity, and individual states saw a return of $3 to $4 back for every dollar it invested in public colleges, when the public meant white. Public colleges thrived, so it was an investment. That's no longer the case. Students of color comprised just 1 in 6 public colleges in 1980, but now they make up over 4 in 10. Over this period of growth among students of color, ensuring college affordability fell out of favor with lawmakers. State legislators began to drastically cut what they spent per student on their public colleges, even as the taxable income base in the state grew. More and more Americans enrolled nonetheless, because other policy decisions in the labor market made a college degree necessary to compete for a middle-class job. By 2017, the majority of state colleges were relying on student tuition dollars for a majority of their expenses. The average public college tuition has nearly tripled since 1991, helping to bring its counterpart, skyrocketing student debt, to the level of $1.5 trillion in 2020. This represents an alarming stealth privatization of America's public colleges. So it's not just that people are choosing degrees that are worthless, is that they keep increasing the cost while decreasing the public dollars that are going to the cost. The rising cost of college feels to most Americans, like so many aspects of our economy, unexplained and unavoidable. But at Demos, we researched the causes of rising tuition and linked them squarely to the withering government commitment to public funding, the federal government, for its part, slowly shifted its financial aid from grants that didn't have to be repaid, such as Pell Grants for low-income students, which used to cover over 4/5 of college costs, now only cover at most 1/3, to federal loans, which I would argue are not financial aid at all. Yes, student loans enable Americans to pay for college bills during enrollment, but the compounding interest means that they must pay at least 33% more on average than the borrowed amount. Millions of students are also paying double-digit interest on private loans. I'm reading this because there are so many people that try to gaslight college-educated people like we wanted to go to school and accrue all of this debt. No, society said if you want a good job, you need to go to school. But then they made the cost astronomical. So you guys jump in the comments. Tell me what you think. Like, comment, share.